Uh-oh, you're in Polito Bay. I don't know how you managed to get there, but anyways, you have to get back to the city. But what do? Do you get your car? You probably already have your car, so it's a great option. However, it might take a bit long. How about you steal a helicopter at the sheriff's office? Seems like a great idea, but there's a high chance a very slow helicopter will spawn. So what about if you call you Sparrow? That seems like a great idea. Ooh, maybe even call a jet, even faster. Might spawn a bit far away, but you know, it's really fast. Or better yet, how about the Oppressor Mark II you spent $8 million on, just so it can spawn right in front of you? In this video we will see how an Oppressor Mark II compares to other forms of transport when it comes to crossing the map. So first of all we have the Oppressor run. As you can see, I had to do this on a 5M server because, well, sadly I don't have the Oppressor Mark II anymore on my GTA 5 accounts, and I wasn't gonna spend 8 or 6 million on it. But yeah, I found it on a 5M server, which was quite hard. A lot of them banned them because, well, people just don't like Oppressor Mark II, and like if you have the power to ban them, apparently server owners like to ban them. But I finally found one. There's a lot of overlay as you can see, but we just have to ignore that for now. The other ones are recorded without any of the clutter. But yeah, anyways, you go fly up, you press spacebar on PC. You know, it's like when the back wings kind of get small, and you stay at around 208, 210 kilometers an hour. I think it's 208 when you go up, and if you just go straight, it's like 210-ish. Yeah, here we just go on the road because, well, the road gives it a little bit more speed. We don't really have to point down or anything. And yeah, the finish line is at the end of this road, so we don't really lose any time by being here. It's about the same as just being in the air. And as you can see, like around 2 minutes, so 2 minutes and 3 seconds, we're here. And the beautiful thing about the Oppressor Mark II is obviously that it stops really fast, and that's really what you want it for, and it can land basically anywhere. Next up we have the car, which is oftentimes one of the more practical ones. Like I said with the Oppressor Mark II, this can land anywhere. Well, it can park anywhere quite quickly. Although the Oppressor Mark II has of course the edge if you want to be on a building or whatever. But yeah, most of the places in the game are car accessible. So that's really nice. And the thing about a car is, most of the times you're already in your car or your car spawns. Like oftentimes when you get out of something, your car just spawns right in front of you. So the car is basically instant. You just get in. Also, there's no startup time on the car. Same with the Oppressor Mark II. You just get on, you just go away. It's fine. So in that regard, the car and the Oppressor Mark II are very similar. Although most of the times your Oppressor Mark II you still have to call, but you can do that on the interaction menu and it spawns relatively quickly. So that's really not a problem. Especially if you have to spawn a car as well, then taking your Oppressor Mark II is definitely the better option. As you can definitely see here, we are nearing the 2-minute mark, and we're not even in the city yet. Meanwhile, the Oppressor Mark II would have been descending right now and would have be there right now. And meanwhile, we're just getting close to the city, not even in the city yet. Now we're in the city kinda, but we still have to get off the highway and then get into the city, do a couple turns. So it takes us a little bit more time to finally get there. And this is also like one of the fastest cars. Yes, a HSW car will probably be a little bit faster. But it's not gonna save you that much time. It's gonna be a bit closer to the Oppressor Mark II, but the Oppressor Mark II is definitely still gonna be your best bet. Unless you maybe spawn right in the HSW car, then HSW car could be faster maybe. Next up we have the Buzzard. It's one of 4 vehicles that can spawn here on the sheriff's office, but it's the fastest one. The other ones are really slow. It's like the Cargo Annihilator. So you really don't want those. Because they're really slow and they're not gonna compare very well towards even the car. I think even the car will kind of beat them. Maybe not in direct flight time, but if you have to get there first, start it up, especially the startup can take a little bit of time. So in that case, only the Buzzard really is a good comparison here. The other ones would be too slow, especially if you compare them to the Mark II, because that's what this video is about, obviously. But as you can see, the Buzzard does quite well, is a lot further than the car, but definitely still needs a little bit of time here. A disadvantage, of course, is the startup time and that you have to drive to the sheriff's office, and not like the Oppressor Mark II, which can just spawn anywhere, basically. And that's what you have to consider with a lot of these times. While the Buzzard gets really close to the Oppressor Mark II time in most scenarios, especially landing, like here I crash land. You know, if you want to land like this, it takes some time to slow it down and get out. Oppressor Mark II stops instantly and you're out. To get rid of the aspect of having to drive to the sheriff's office, we can also take the Sparrow, which we can spawn via the interaction menu from our Kosatka. Of course, you have to have a Kosatka and a Sparrow, but you know, in this video it's not about money, because, well, for beginner players this all doesn't really matter, because they won't have access to Oppressor Mark II even. But yeah, the Sparrow is a lot quicker than the Buzzard, in both regards. So first of all, it spawns anywhere, so you can spawn it way quicker. But it also has a way higher top speed, so its time will be faster anyways. Furthermore, the Sparrow, like I said, starts up quite easily. Oppressor Mark II will, however, start a bit quicker, so its start is still a little bit quicker. But this thing spawns so instant, the difference is very marginal. And as you can see here, it actually is a bit quicker. Of course, we're gonna land a bit here, but actually we land quite nicely here. It's gonna take a little bit to slow down. But as you see, we're a couple seconds faster than Oppressor Mark II. So for longer distance, Sparrow is better than a Mark II. But the Mark II can be better for like shorter distances. Next up we have the first jet. We have the Hydra. Hydra is an older vehicle, and of course a lot of people have it. It is practical in the regard that you can spawn it basically anywhere. It will spawn on a lot of the helicopter places, so for example the sheriff's office. But it doesn't spawn like the Oppressor Mark II or Sparrow, as in like right in front of you, sadly. But it will spawn on a lot of places. So this obviously has the disadvantage that you first have to drive to a place, get in, take off, etc. So in that regard it loses quite a lot of time. But as you can see here, for like very long distances like this, it might make sense to get it, because in the end you save a lot of time, especially if you want to go to the airport or the port. It's gonna be a little bit longer, then it definitely makes sense. And this thing is relatively easy to end because you also have hover mode. But you see, like 30 seconds is quite a lot, even if you have to drive a little bit. So for longer distances, definitely consider the Hydra. If you however want to maximize your speed, you can spend a little bit more money and get the Raichu. This jet is a lot faster actually, well, a lot. It's quite a bit faster top speed wise, which is very huge. And it also has the hover mode, so it can land on most places like the Hydra as well, which is really nice. As you can see here, it's just very fast. You might wonder why I was looking down there. I was actually in a race with someone, but he left, so I stopped looking down, but I was trying to see if I could see him, because he was in a car. But yeah, as you can see, we're approaching the city now. And yeah, we're well ahead of basically anything. I even accidentally go into hover mode, but it's relatively fine because we're gonna, you know, speed land. We're not gonna slowly land, so that hover mode kind of makes up for it a little bit. But in the end, it has like a 1:30-ish time if you really want to stop and everything. So it is a lot faster than the Oppressor Mark II. So what we can conclude is that if you really want maximum speed, take a jet. It definitely makes a difference because its top speed is so much higher. But if you want to do shorter distances, I think the Oppressor Mark II can be a lot better, because actually it lands so fast. You can cut out a lot of the last meters you have to cross to like a certain mission checkpoint, for example. So the Oppressor Mark II definitely has a right being that expensive, I guess, to some degree, because it is very practical, especially on shorter distances. But for crossing the map, jets are still your best friend.